Disclaimer. Any nonsensical connections made between video games and communist themes, zealous and self-righteous dictatorial behaviours, and perceived support and/or apologism of oppressive regimes like the Soviet Union are purely instances of self-satire as a means of comical introspection, and in some cases have no basis in truth and/or personal belief. Hello comrades, and welcome to Jaffameister TV. I'm your political commissar George Johnson, and this is Your Fave's Communistic, the show where I try to convince my comrades in games media that their favourite video game characters are actually communists. That means it's time to spin the wheel of equal distribution to find out who we're going to be talking to today. Once again, thanks to the fair, accurate and random selection process that we have here at Jaffameister TV, we know who we're going to be talking to in this episode. Alice Bell, a video gamer, whose favourite character from a video game is Solas from Dragon Age Inquisition. Hi Alice.
Hi George, how are you?
I'm alright thanks, how are you?
I'm good, I'm excited to have some knowledge dropped on me.
Yeah, this should be an ocean of revelations. So, your favourite video game character is Solas from Dragon Age Inquisition?
Yes, I think he's a really good character. Not necessarily a nice person all the time, but a really interesting, complex character. And I'm interested to see what points you're going to bring to the table, because I think there are two sides to Solas, and one is really easy to argue as communistic, and the other is less so, I think.
I have dipped into both sides of him, so this should be very... this should be interesting.
Ooh, okay, excellent.
So, you ready to begin?
I'm ready, let's do it.
Awesome. Point number one. Solas holds three fundamental beliefs. Cause and effect, wisdom as its own reward, and the inherent right of all free-willed people to exist.
Yeah.
All three of these fundamental beliefs have intrinsic connections to communism, and I'm going to tell you what they are.
Okay. I'm on board so far, yeah.
One, cause and effect. The right of communism is an excellent example of cause and effect, Alice.
Do go on.
Cause being the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, and the effect that it had on the distinction between the capitalist class and the working class.
Okay. Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah. Marx and Engels' theory developed as a result of the crisis of exploitation, and the effect is the countless communist states that took inspiration from the manifesto, and at a time dominated half of the globe, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. And if we observe that Solas believes in cause and effect, and that communism is cause and effect, then Solas clearly believes in communism.
I mean, I'm following the logic there, but I think that's quite a broad point.
Okay, well, I do go into a little bit more detail, just laying the foundations.
Yeah, let's continue.
B, wisdom and its own reward. Communism is arguably the wisest ideology, and it is rewarding to be a communist.
Is that it? Is that your whole point?
That's it on that one. I felt like that, said everything it needed to say.
Okay.
Okay. And C, inherent right of all free-willed people to exist. Communism, as an umbrella ideology, proposes that the only way for a free-willed people to exist freely is that they are given equal opportunity, ability, conditions, and necessities. Communism is completely correct in this assertion, or I think, and it can therefore be concluded that if Solas wishes for the right of all free-willed people to exist, that he is a communist.
Now this is, I think, the most interesting of the three, because while I absolutely agree that you can draw that parallel, Solas is later seen to be betraying his own belief in this regard.
Now see, that's very interesting, because that brings me on to my next point.
Okay. You're heading me off, you've thought of everything.
Yeah. In the after-credits scene of Dragon Age Inquisition, it is revealed that Solas is in fact Fen'Harel the Dreadwolf.
He is.
Now, Fen'Harel the Dreadwolf is the elven god of betrayal, but he's also known as the elven god of rebellion.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you knew this, but rebellion is an inherent aspect of many socialist revolutions. And we can see rebellion with the Russians in 1917 and the Cubans from 1953 to 1959. And they both overthrew, or in a sense, rebelled against their oppressive status quo.
How much did you look into Solas's history as revealed in the later DLCs?
I glossed over it a bit.
Because this is why I thought you'd quite like Solas, because Solas basically led a revolution.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah.
So I totally agree that young kind of revolutionary Solas is definitely quite communistic. But he, at the end of the very final DLC, he basically states his intent to destroy most of the current population of the world.
Now see, that is very interesting, because that also ties into my third point.
It's like we planned this!
I know, isn't it exciting? In Redcliffe Village, Solas says to an elven mage, Lysus, the quote, "Sometimes to achieve the world one desires, one must take regrettable measures."
Right.
Right? Now, much like Solas's parallels between his early years as quite an up-and-coming revolutionary and his later years as someone who seeks to destroy a lot of stuff, we can see that parallel in the Soviet Union. See?
Dun, dun,
now,
dun.
the early years of the Soviet Union, from 1917 to 1922, you know, they had some problems, but they were doing relatively okay for themselves, and they were quite optimistic about everything. But then Joseph Stalin came along, Alice.
Boo!
Yeah, he's not a very nice man. But he came along and he's killed a lot of people. Caused many famines and waged a lot of war, because he felt that they were regrettable measures to create the world, the communist world, that he sought to achieve.
Oh, bloody hell. So
yeah.
You're kind of arguing that Solas as a character undergoes a journey that can be representative of basically the communist history of Russia.
Yes, I am.
That's genuinely amazing. I never thought of that.
Well, there you go. And I'm not even done yet.
Oh my god, okay. Shit, okay, let's go.
Point number 4. Solas is quite a fan of chess.
Oh, he is? Yeah, that's true.
He's also extremely good at the game.
Yeah.
And that's important, because in the Soviet Union, chess was regarded as a symbol of communist superiority.
Was it?
It was. They took the competitive side of chess very seriously, and from 1948 to 1963, their chess player, Mikhail Botsvinik, held the world championship. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Chess has been around for a while. Before the Soviet Union, you know, before communism was a thing. In fact, it has been in existence since estimatedly the 8th century. But I think that whilst its origins aren't rooted in communism, due to the prominence of Soviet chess players in the 20th century, the two have become inseparable, at least in the eyes of some. And it's this inseparability that leads me to believe that those at BioWare who decided that Solas would be an excellent chess player could theoretically have been influenced by these facts, which would root communism as a basis behind this decision, and thusly with the character of Solas. It's like, that magician, I can't remember his name, but he did a TV series where he met up with someone for an undisclosed reason, and on the way to this person travelling to their destination, littered a bunch of really subtle hints and pictures that let him predict what the person was going to be thinking.
Okay.
I think there's a similar effect here. People at BioWare, the writers of Dragon Age Inquisition, who made Solas,
Yeah.
must have had subtle suggestions of chess being communist, and that Solas should like chess.
I mean, fair play. There's some banter, some party banter between Solas and the Iron Bull, who's another NPC.
Indeed, he's also beautiful.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love the Iron Bull. I described him as a jolly pansexual cow mountain.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
But they have an imaginary chess match. If you keep them in your party, they will have a conversation that is an imaginary chess match.
That's fantastic.
And Solas uses something called the King's Gambit, this chess move, and people have analysed it and said it represents like kind of how they are as people, because Iron Bull loses the match because he's protecting his pawns, like his men, whereas Solas sacrifices everything in order to achieve eventual victory.
Now, this is an impromptu point I'm making here, but seeing as you've brought this to my attention, I think there are some distinctions to be drawn here.
Okay.
Now, the Soviet Union, that's a big primary factor in a lot of my justifications here.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union arguably sacrificed a lot to establish themselves as a world power. And given all of the other evidence we've seen,
True.
You know, it's possible.
Well, I mean, you've done a pretty convincing job
I
so
have two
far.
more points.
What?
Okay.
Go on then. What have we got?
Okay.
I'm excited.
Point number 5. Solas disdains tea.
He does.
And the funny thing about tea, Alice, is that it has historic ties to imperialism and the British colonials.
Oh, cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Because obviously the shipments of tea from the British colonials were thrown into the Boston Harbours as part of the Boston Tea Party.
Yeah.
A political protest that escalated the American Revolution. Some libertarian strains of communism place a heavy importance on the rejection of imperialism. And if we connect the dots, that could be symbolic of Solas rejecting imperialism and embracing communism.
Now, again, I see what you're saying, but I feel this may be a layer down, like another layer of interpretation, because he does quite specifically in the game say it's because he doesn't like caffeine.
Well, you know, there are metaphors laced in various different kinds of characters and their, you know, personalities.
Very true. Very
and
true.
I do have other quite convincing points, I think.
Yeah.
Now, Alice, I have one more point.
Yes.
I think it's going to be the one that wins you over. This is the killer.
This is the killer,
right?
okay.
So, point number 6.
Yeah.
BioWare writer Mary Kirby compares Solas to Scotch bonnet candies, which is a sweet made from the Scotch bonnet pepper. We can see two links between Scotch bonnet peppers and communism, and therefore links between Solas and communism.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
But A.
Yeah.
The Scotch bonnet pepper is named as such for its resemblance to the tam o' shanter hat, a traditional Scottish bonnet worn by men. Another evolution of the bonnet comes in the form of the flat cap, a hat traditionally associated with the British working class, a group of people that formed the basis of a lot of early 20th century British labour movements that saw stimulation thanks to the communist takeover of Russia in 1917.
Oh my god, it's the smoking gun.
Yeah, I know. But if that wasn't enough, number B, the Scotch bonnet pepper is most commonly found in the Caribbean islands, where we can find the Marxist-Leninist Republic of Cuba. It's also found in West Africa, where between 1917 and 1990 we saw some communist states including the People's Republic of Benin and the Revolutionary Council of Guinea-Bissau.
Oh my god.
And I believe it's quite frankly impossible to ignore the obvious communist connotations present in Mary Kirby's comparing of Solas to Scotch bonnet candies, especially given the rest compelling supporting evidence.
Do you know what? I love this because I was expecting you to lean heavily on the fact that Solas led a revolution of slaves against their masters.
I didn't even need to.
And you were like, no, I'm going with the Scotch bonnet.
That would be too easy. I need to find the real compelling stuff.
Oh my god! I mean, I there's no arguing against it.
So, Alice, is that to say you think you are convinced that Solas from Dragon Age Inquisition is a communist?
I mean, absolutely. Not based solely on the hat connection, but I think there is genuinely a lot of compelling content to say that he is. Especially the idea of him being representative of the entire history of communist Russia.
I know. That I was quite pleased with that one. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Now,
yeah, I'm convinced.
The next question I ask my guests is obviously Solas must mean a lot to you, considering he's your favourite video game character. Does your favourite video game character, being a communist, undisputably, with no disproving evidence whatsoever, convince you, Alice Bell of videogamer.com, in any way towards the pull of communism?
I mean, I think Solas is not necessarily the best example because, as we pointed out, Solas does lean more towards the Stalin in his later years. Yeah. But I think young, revolutionary, fired up Solas, I would definitely join a revolution for.
So what you're saying is, if Solas were in his younger years and offered you a place in his revolutionary communist army, that you would say, yes, Alice Bell, would like to be a communist in the revolutionary army.
100%. I absolutely would.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Listen, they did, that revolution did a lot of good initially for the Elvish people.
That's right then, isn't it?
So, yeah.
Well, there we go. I'm glad we come to another successful result of conversion to the cause.
Indeed, I, Alice Bell, am now basically a communist.
Thank you. That's the little snippet I was looking for. Oh. So, have you enjoyed yourself?
I really have. This has been really fun, especially because you were 100%, you did not go for the low-hanging fruit. You went for the high-to-reach Scotch bonnet.
I'm like, you know how giraffes with their really long necks go for the really far up leaves on trees. I'm like that, but if a giraffe was wearing Ushanka, that's me.
Communist giraffe.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it.
That's going to look good on the video. So, Alice, now that we've all wrapped up, where can people find you on the internet?
I can be found at, I'm the editor of videogamer.com, and you can find me on Twitter at babygotbell. We're also obviously on the website, and we're floating around on YouTube at Videogamer TV on there. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, George.
It's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Oh, you're too flattering. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to further conversions to the cause.
Once again, we have successfully recruited another formidable video games journalist into the ranks of my interactive media revolutionary vanguard party. It may be the case that right now we're only 3 strong, myself included, but soon we will have an elite team to bring class consciousness to all gamers and to lead you, my faithful comrades, to the socialist utopia that we have all dreamed of. But until next time, I've been your political commissar, George Johnson, wishing you a revolutionary day. Signing off.
Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable